this video, we'll talk about one of the most important aspects of the middle game, the minor pieces. Minor pieces refer to knights and bishops. The battle between bishops and knights is one of the most subtle and important in chess. A good player will typically end up with a powerful knight over a poor bishop, or powerful bishop over a poor knight against his lower rated opponent. Then when he plays someone stronger than himself, he will find that the situation is reversed, and his minor piece is inferior to whatever his opponent owns. You will find that this food chain lacks any kind of mercy. Only a deep understanding of the needs of both the bishop and the knight will allow you to keep your head above water in this turbulent fight. Let us take a look at this position here. White has a strong knight on d5, while black has an f8 bishop. We can say that this knight rules over the bishop because number 1, it is centralized. Number 2, it guards key squares, especially those that are near black's camp. In this next position, we have a fianchettoed bishop on g2. Now, the black's knight on the corner of the board is actually not doing anything. Therefore, this time, this bishop is actually guarding some key diagonals in the center of the board and can in fact play a6 later on to soften this pawn structure, or perhaps move to king f2 and start to activate his king. Therefore, this bishop in this position rules over knight. In general, you should be looking to create a superior minor piece right from the opening. If this doesn't happen, continue looking for your chances in the middle game. Being able to do this will often have decisive significance in the final stage of the game. Now let us learn the laws of bishops and knights. First, for bishop. There are actually 3 types of bishops. Number 1, good bishop. A bishop is considered good when its central pawns are not on its collar and therefore not restricting it. In this position right here, we have a d3 bishop and most of its pawns are dark square. This d3 bishop is light square and therefore can move freely and can guard key diagonals, especially those that are near the king, of the opponent's king rather. Now, this diagonal that the bishop dominates is actually putting pressure on black's king, dominating attack on the king side. Therefore, this d3 bishop is good bishop compared to this b7 bishop. It's actually blocked by knight and pawn here in d5. Number 2, bad bishop. A bishop is considered bad when its central pawns are on its collar and therefore blocking it. Now, this time, let's say for example, white plays bishop to g2. Now, the threat is to capture this d5 pawn. Now, for example, white or black rather plays d4. And this amateur white player pushes his pawn to e4. Maybe he's afraid of f5 or some reasons. Now, this e4 move is actually a bad move for white. Why? Because it totally shuts down its own light square bishop. Therefore, he has now a bad bishop. Number 3, active bishop. An active bishop can be either good or bad. It's called active simply because it serves an active function. Now, let's take a look at this position right here. We have a d5 bishop here. And if you notice, this is a light square bishop and most of its pawns are also light square. Now, this bishop is not actually bad at all. Why? Because it still has its purpose. It's guarding some squares in here, e6 to f7, and here on g8, and perhaps a knight can be exchanged by this bishop, and we have a good position for white. Now, an active bishop doesn't have to be bad, and maybe not that good, but still has its own purpose, right? Now, if you're unfortunate enough to possess a bad bishop, you are usually well advised to do one of 3 things. Number 1, trade off that bad bishop of yours for an enemy bishop or knight. As for this example, if we are to compare the bishop of black and white, this d2 bishop is very good. Number one, we have learned it already. Its pawn is on light square and we have a dark square bishop. Now, compared to black's bishop on c7, which is being blocked by these central pawns, is actually bad. Now, if it's black to move right now, the move bishop to a5 actually gets rid of this bad bishop. This is going to be a good move for black. Why? Because he exchanges his bad bishop to his opponent's good bishop. Therefore, put some equalization on the position. Number two, make your bad bishop good by moving the central pawns off the color of your bishop. As for this example that we have here, in other words, we are to maneuver our bishop to put it in a diagonal where it can be opened. Now, we have an e3 bishop here that is actually obviously very bad, and you'll notice that there are some dark square weaknesses in here that can be dominated since we have a dark square bishop. Now, the best move here is bishop c1. Now, what is the threat? Going to a3 and putting some pressure on this knight to the rook, pinning it, or maybe sometime later on put it to d6 and create as a very good outpost bishop in there. Okay, now let's go over to the laws of knights. Knights need advanced support points. Now, this is also a rule in the opening. You need to put your knight on squares where it can be supported by pawns or some other pieces. Try to create the following situations for your horses. Number one, knights need advanced support points. Knights need advanced support points if they are going to compete successfully with bishops. A support point on the 6th rank is ideal, while a knight on the 5th rank is usually better than a bishop. A knight on the 4th is a very strong piece, but it gets weaker as it gets pushed back to the 1st rank. Now, the 1st and 2nd ranks are not good homes for knight and should only be used as a path to greener pastures. Let's consider this position here. We have a knight on e6 and it's a very good outposting knight in there because it guards key squares again on the black's camp. And it's hard to really knock that knight off the board. Number two, knights dominate close positions. If you're approaching a close position, choose knight over bishop. Knights tend to be superior to bishops in close positions. A wall of pawns will completely shut a bishop down, but a knight will just jump over this wall and continue on its way. In this position, we have a knight on d3 and a bishop again on f8. Now, if it's white to move, these are important squares to occupy later on for knight. Alright? So, if it's white to move, a maneuver on f2 will do the job. Going to e4 and perhaps push pawn on f6 later on. Therefore, this knight is actually doing whatever he can in any route possible to dominate the position, while this black bishop is not doing anything at all. It's hard to really make this bishop active or good because of the dark squared pawns that is being placed in there, and if he wants to do it, perhaps he must sacrifice. In consequence, the pawn's structure in front of his king is somewhat going to be weakened. Number three, knights are best blockaders. This is an important rule, especially approaching endgame. Now, knights are the best blockaders of pass pawns. A knight can stop an enemy passer in its tracks and still remain active due to its ability to jump over other units. In this next position, let's see how this being dominated by black this time. Now, white has a passer on d5, while at the same time, black has a passer on b4. The only difference is that the knight is stopping this d5 pass pawn, and this bishop on b3 is stopping this b4 pass pawn. If we are to check or look at the activity of these two minor pieces, This knight is more active than this bishop. Why? Because while it is blocking this pass pawn on d5, this knight is actually keeping an eye on these backward pawns e4 and c4. While this bishop is just holding its grudge, holding its own position there, stopping the pawn and guarding these two isolated pawn here on a4 and a backward pawn here on c4. Therefore, this bishop is somewhat not helping that much for white. Now, I hope you learn a lot for this loss of bishops and knights. These principles really help a lot and improves your game. Take it to the next level of play. Let us check this sample game that we have. This is a game between Vasily Smyslov and Joseph Radakovsky. This happened during the USSR Championship in 1945 in Moscow. Let's take a look how these basic principles of minor pieces apply even to this Grandmaster level games. Now, Smyslov is white here, Radakovsky is black. Let's take a look at how the game happens. Smyslov plays e4, c5, knight f3, e6, d4. So this is open Sicilian. C takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, d6. So this is the Scheveningen variation of Sicilian. This is still bookline, bishop e2, bishop e7, white castles, black castles, bishop e3. We can see that white is has developed all its pieces first. He is lead in development for this specific Sicilian opening. Knight c6, f4. This is still bookline, queen c7, queen e1. The plan of white here is to transfer the queen to the king side and create pressure onto the king there. Alright, let's continue. Knight takes d4, bishop takes d4, e5. This move is important for black. Why? Because it frees this c8 bishop. This is the only last piece that is not being developed yet. This e5 move provokes white to capture e5, and if black retakes, now this bishop on e7 is freed at last. But Smyslov has understood the position already. He doesn't want to recapture that because it will free that black bishop on e7. He doesn't want to help his opponent, and therefore black develops bishop to e6. f5. The move f5 is to give black the decision to where to put his bishop, to retreat it or to keep it active. But being a grandmaster, Radakovsky put it to c4. This is an example of putting your bad bishop to a better square or exchanging it for your opponent's best bishop or good bishop. And so Smyslov took it, queen takes, bishop g5. Now, because there is a threat on e4 in here, so therefore Smyslov moves his bishop to g5. But this move has dual purpose. First, he threatens to capture this knight, and when black recaptures, this d5 square is going to be a very strong square for knight. Remember, knights need support points. Let's see what happens. Rook e8, and there it goes. Bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, knight d5. This is a very strong knight in the center of the board. Bishop d8 rather. Now, Radakovsky, black has to move the bishop to d8 back because he doesn't want to weaken his king side with a double pawn. And also, this c2 pawn cannot be captured because if queen captures it, rook c1, and there's a fork there for either of those rooks will come off the board. Okay, so Radakovsky plays bishop d8, c3, b5, b3, queen c5 check, king h1, rook c8, rook f3. So this rook lift is planning to transfer this rook making it more active here in the king side part of the board. King h8, f6. What is the purpose of f6? The purpose of f6 is to destroy the pawn structure of black on the king side. G takes f6, queen h4. Amazing move. Rook g8, knight takes f6, rook g7 because it's threatening to checkmate in there. Rook g3, bishop takes f6, queen takes f6, and I believe white is very good chances of winning this game. Now the rook is pinned. Rook d1, threatening to kick that d6 off the board. d5, rook takes g7, rook takes g7, rook takes d5, and black resigns because the threat on rook d8 mate is unavoidable. Even if black tries to save it with putting the queen on the 8th rank, doesn't have. He should lose his queen in exchange, and still the game is very losing for black. Now, you notice that the position is very much dominating for white because of that very strong knight on d5. And you see also the principles of black, exchanging some bad bishops to opponents' good bishops, putting some good developments and strategies in order to make the minor pieces active as much as possible.
Hey, check this video out to make sure that you get more important information to bring your chess to the next level.